I am in Algeria right now, and people here are very serious about their dates. So much so that there are stores, and I mean like brick and mortar stores dedicated to just dates. Different varieties of dates, different ripenesses of dates, different sorts of date products, all in a shop and nothing else. Today we're going to deep dive into dates. I'm going to talk about the most famous date that is available here in Algeria, the most popular one. I'm going to talk about the most expensive date in the world, which I also have, I think. And we're going to talk about date ripeness, because people eat dates in different stages of ripeness. And I'm going to talk about some of the different date products that you can get here in Algeria. First, let's talk about date ripeness. And I think this is a good way to start, because this is a very important thing where I am. But if you get dates in the US, where I'm from, or other parts of the world that are not in the Middle East or Northern Africa, it's not going to be a specific ripeness of dates. It's just going to be a dried date. Here you have options, and people are very particular about the kind that they have. And the pricing on these is also different. First, we have the dates that I've had in the past, which are picked before they've dried out whatsoever. Those here in Algeria would be considered an unripe date, okay? Those have not ripened fully where the sugars have come out. And those are really good. They're kind of crispy and a little bit chestnutty, maybe in the direction of like a mild sweet apple. But if you let them dry out more, then you get to this stage here. This is considered to be half unripe. And at this point, the sugars have broken down. It's starting to get like a little bit translucent, and it's gotten like this nice caramel kind of color to it. But as you can see, it's not really like crinkly all that much. This one at the store was 300 dinar a kilo, which is about $2 for a kilo. Oh man, that's really good. It's, flavor aside, flavor is great. The texture of it is amazing. I've never had a date that had a crispy feel to it. Like it's soft and syrupy, but it also has a little crisp. I think maybe the best way to illustrate that is to get up nice and close. And as you can see, I have been in the sun, guys. I'm getting red. But listen to this. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's crispy. Sweetness on that is very high. It's like almost sugar, maybe a 9 out of 10. And it's not tart at all. It tastes like a typical date, like brown sugar, dry fruit, like a chestnut sort of flavor, maybe a hint of like a very mild apple sort of taste. So the next stage after this is this one here. This one is partially dried. This one is a little bit more dried out, and it's also a little bit more expensive. So people will spend an extra 50 dinar to get this type right here, and see if there's a reason for that. This is a very different experience. Similar flavor, but the texture is different. It's not crispy. However, it is more dense and almost like a little bit crunchy in a way. I would say it's richer, if that makes sense. Like those sugars have broken down more. So we're getting a little bit more towards a burnt sugar sort of taste, more like a caramel sort of taste. Honestly, I think I like the earlier stage better, even though it's a little bit cheaper. But I can see why somebody would like this. This is getting closer to just chewing candy. And I believe this is, the ideal stage of ripeness. You want it to be a little bit more ripe than this, but not as ripe as this, which is the mostly dry date. This one was 250 dinar per kilo, so a little bit cheaper than the other two. So in this stage here, as you can see, it's gotten a little bit gray, It's got a lot more wrinkly. And I believe this is the stage that you're going to find dates in the US. If you get a packet of dates, it's going to be in this stage, which is the less ideal stage of ripeness as far as we're concerned here. Yeah, we're getting crunchy now. These are crunchier, a little bit more chestnutty. It's got almost like a little bit of like a sweet potato taste in there. And I can see why this one is cheaper because of that. Because this one you can buy from a supermarket pretty easily, just about anywhere. This one, it's not going to last as long. This one is going to deteriorate further, or it's going to dry out further. This one you can actually ship. Next, we have the fully dry date. And yeah, big jump in this one. You can see this one's got a little bit of that brown color. This one has turned like almost white. And this one has been picked and it has been dried out. I'm not sure exactly how much this one costs compared to the other ones, because it wasn't sold by kilo, it was sold by packet. And the packet that this came in was 100 dinar. So probably not as cheap as this one here, but cheaper than the others is my guess. And this one has been picked, dried out, and that could be dried out for a long time. I was told that these can be stored for years and you can still eat them. So yeah, this is just like a husk of the fruit. There's no juice in there whatsoever. This is completely dried out. And I like it least. It's kind of tough and a little powdery. When you chew it, it kind of like mixes with your saliva a bit, makes it nicer. But yeah, it feels like that life has been sucked out of it. This is like a date after it's been visited by a vampire. I'm sure this has its use, maybe to bake with or something, make flour out of it or sugar out of it or something, but out of hand, it's not my favorite one. I'd say my favorite one is actually the least ripe out of all of them, just for that crispiness and the lightness of it. But I can see why these are more expensive. And I can see why somebody would want the ones that are dried out further. You know, I can see that. I don't really see why people would want this one, but I'm sure some people have that preference as well. So this is really cool to me, you know, just because I can have these, the ones that you can get in a packet all around the world, you can have that. But the ones that are less ripe than that, that is a very difficult thing to get your hands on. You need to go to an area where there is a culture around eating dates. And that means you gotta go to the Middle East, you gotta go to Northern Africa. You can't really get that elsewhere. There are some places in the US that grow dates, but you know, getting this sort of experience it's difficult. It's really difficult. So that is what I was hoping for coming here, getting a chance to try this to that next level. And there is more. There is so much more to talk about dates. So next we're going to talk about some very special varieties of dates. Let's do it. Next, I have the most famous date here in Algeria, the Daqlة Noor. That, I believe, means date of light. And this one was 750 dinars, so more than double of the regular dates I had earlier. Those ones, I'm not sure what cultivar those were, but pretty standard dates. These ones are specifically grown here in Algeria, and they are a major export for the country. This is a valued date. I believe the ripeness on this one is the earliest stage, the one that's like a little bit crispy. And if it ripens further, the price of these actually went up to 1,500 a kilo. Double the price if you get these in the ideal ripeness. I didn't know that when I bought it, but it turns out that this is the ripeness that I prefer. So great. I think it's going to have a little bit of that crispiness to it. It does look quite similar to the other ones, but I don't know, there's something about it. It's like got a little bit of like a dustiness to it. Oh. Oh yeah. Taking a bite out of it, the inside is so juicy that the inside of the date is just like falling out of the skin. The skin of it is kind of like a grape skin. It's got like a little crisp to it. But then getting the next layer in of the fruit is crispy the way that the less ripe dates were crispy from earlier. And then beneath that, closer to the seed, it's like just like syrup. I'm getting like soft pulp. So I'm getting like 3 levels of texture to it, which I wasn't getting from the other dates, the standard dates. That is something special. It's crispy, but it also kind of like melts in your mouth at the same time. That is tremendously good. And yeah, it's just kind of like falling apart in my hands. It's like so juicy and soft. The sweetness on this is a 10. It's sugar. That's pure sugar. The flavor is similar, but this one is going a little bit more like, it's like dulce de leche. It's like a very rich, almost creamy, syrupy, sweet sort of flavor. I can see why this one is so popular here. And this is also something that you're not going to find, not in this level. They do ship Daqlette Noor. It's one of their main exports. However, it doesn't ship like this. You're going to get it in the more dry stage. So this feels special. Like me eating this right now feels very special. But I am not done. I've got one more. We've talked about the different ripenesses and the most popular date here, but let's talk about the most expensive date. This is grown in Saudi Arabia. And the reason why this one is so expensive is not just because it's considered to be a superior type of date. It is grown in Medina. And Medina is a holy site. It's a holy city because there's a mosque there that has significance to Islam. So people will eat this fruit not just because of the flavor, but also because it has religious significance. And I believe this date is specifically eaten to break fasts. So it does have some more importance than just flavor. And this costs $12 a kilo. So to put that in perspective, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot by like American standards, but here that's quite expensive for dates. The Daqlette Noor is about $5 a kilo, okay? And the standard dates are $2 a kilo. So this guy, very, very pricey. And it's sold in the dried state. Okay, this is like the state where it can be shipped internationally. Okay, so I'm guessing like if you were to get this in the ideal ripeness, where it's still a little bit unripe, you're talking some pretty high numbers. But money isn't everything. Let's see what this tastes like. That is a very different variety of date. I mean, besides the fact that it's like black, the flavor of that is more like, it feels like a prune almost. It's got like a dried plum sort of flavor, maybe a little raisiny. It's got a hint of like molasses, like a little bit of a bitter molasses sort of taste to it. A little bit of burnt sugar. It's good. It's really, really good. I think I like the Daqlette Noor more as far as flavor goes, but this one I could see somebody liking this more just because that has more complexity to the flavor. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to try a different variety of date that is so different than the other ones. And there are so many different dates. There's so many different types. I'm just trying like a few here. But my work is not done. There are so many varieties for me to cover in the future, which I will next time I'm out in this part of the world. But that's not all. I'm also going to talk about date sugar and date syrup, but I'm not going to do that here because honestly, I am just like sugared out right now. I don't think I can eat any more date products and be able to give it the respect that it deserves. I'm going to cleanse my palate. We're going to talk about this in New York.